Call of Duty Black Ops multiplayer was unveiled last Monday. It was rather surprising. So first up is how the reception was for you.
I think, anytime you work on a project as long as we have, and there's a lot of things that we're doing for the Call of Duty multiplayer for Black Ops 2, and just to be able to see the reaction of the fans and the press to all the hard work we've been doing was very gratifying.
One of the new features is the new score streaks.
Yes.
It's the goal to make it tempting to try and do more things and take more risks.
Right, to go for the higher score streaks, right? Well, I think the great thing about the score streaks system itself is really it will reward players for playing the games and the modes the way they're intended to be played. So I think you saw the demo for Capture the Flag. As you have these scoring events, right, you have the ability to unlock those scoring events rather quickly just by helping your team out. So, when you start to get into the higher score streaks, I think you're going to find players really using a lot more strategy on when do I call in a UAV, or what am I going to, when do I counter those particular score streaks. So I think it's going to be a lot of strategy that players are going to really enjoy.
And the other thing was the Big Ten system for creating a class, and it felt rather natural, I have to say, and it's like we don't want to go back to the previous system. How was the design process for that feature?
So I think when you started to look at, in the presentation you were at, they call it the board game, right? Where they, the Pick 10 we think is going to be great for the fans. Where, what kind of a player are you? Are you a run-a-gunner? Are you a sniper? Based on the different modes that you play, you can actually pick those 10 pieces of content however you want to do your loadout. So I think the players are going to really enjoy the wild cards that actually break some of the system, where they can actually run with 2 perks from the same class, or maybe 3 attachments, pick up an extra lethal grenade or tactical rather. And so I think it really is going to give the opportunity for our players and our fans alike to really try and experiment with a lot of different things. If you want to start off with no primary as an example and just walk around with, a melee weapon, you can. So I think it's going to really, when you start to look at the deployable riot shield and some of the other things that we have in the game, I think it's really going to offer the players a lot of variety.
Do you think these new features are good for bringing back the players that already stopped playing the Call of Duty multiplayer previous games?
It's possible. I think it's one of those things where, it just seemed for us a natural progression after Black Ops on when we started looking at some of the systems that they designed for the team designed. And we always want to bring people back, right, to the COD universe. We think it's a great game. We love making the game for everybody. And so I think it's really going to be a combination of even the core fans are going to love it, but it may, entice some of the fans that maybe walked away from the franchise to say, gosh, I want to try that. That's something different. That's something that, I've either, want to try, or, especially with the creative class, being able to really choose, you're not limited to having, all those particular slots where I have to have a primary, I have to have a secondary, and you really have a chance to experiment. So I think for a lot of players are really going to enjoy that.
Maybe another hook could be the multi-team new feature in which many teams can combine and can play together in the same map. Are you designing the maps based on this new feature for multi-teams, more than 2 teams?
Right. I think, when we start to look at a map, we're looking at, how does it feel? Does it play right? And so, we've traditionally had, 12 players on a map at any one time, regardless, in the typical modes, team deathmatch, et cetera. So, breaking them up isn't necessarily, we have to necessarily redesign a new map. We just have to take into account that there's a lot more players, a lot more, a lot of different teams, and really making those maps very, variety and have lots of different terrain, where you can work as a team. And, that whole idea of the small squad working together, is a great thing for our fans. So I think, when we go back into the map design, again, that fundamental play mechanic of keeping the action, keeping it, long sight lines, short sight lines, cover, etc. I think it just, in a small squad, the communication for that team, we're finding is thoroughly enjoyable for our fans.
And talking about communication, what about the whole esports thing? With the code casting, it was rather impressive. I don't know how the technology behind it works.
Right. So as far as really, if you think about what we've been able to do is really add kind of like a spectator mode, right, to your multiplayer. experience. So if someone goes into the theater, you can actually replay the match and actually shoutcast it to your friends. You can bring up the scoreboard. You can bring over the overhead map. You can look at exactly how many people or who's on kill streak. So it's really this opportunity for our fans to sort of go back in and kind of look at the match and see what happened. Give those fans who want to, do some shoutcasting and get really involved and really produce some great content to show their friends and to show the community what they can do. So I think it's going to be a great feature for us, for our community, to really get engaged in that content and share what they do.
Can we expect a Call of Duty TV channel in the near future?
It seems the natural progression, right? So I think there's a lot of things that we're looking at. Our fans definitely would, when you start to look at some of the content they produce for Black Ops, through the theater feature, that there's a lot of content that these guys are producing. So it really makes sense for us to try to figure out a way for us to sort of harness the power of that community and all the content that they're producing. So we'll see where it takes us.
So finally, this is the future already. It's 2025. How does that future affect the gameplay in multiplayer mode?
So for us, we're exclusively in 2025. So what that does for us is, you probably saw when you were playing some of those weapons and some of the technology that you had with the microwave Guardian kill streak, where, great if you're going to be trying to hold down an objective to use that. We've got the millimeter wave scanner where you actually pulses through the environment so you can see where people are. So, by being able to introduce some of this new technology and using that 2025 timeframe, has really been able to introduce some new technology for multiplayer that I think a lot of our fans and myself alike will absolutely love.
Okay, looking forward to playing a lot of multiplayer from now to maybe 2025. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.